There was always this story my dad used to tell when people asked why I wasn't more like my brother. Eli was born sensible, he'd say, clapping Dean on the back like a proud coach. But Theo? That boy came out asking questions. It wasn't even funny. But they laughed every time, like I was some kind of philosophical raccoon rooting through their trash for meaning. Dean was the golden one. The one who brought home soccer trophies and dated cheerleaders who called my mother Mama by their second weekend at the house. I was the quiet one. The phase they thought I'd outgrow. I liked puzzles. Robotics. Once, in middle school, I built a homemade wind-powered phone charger. They grounded me for tampering with wall outlets. But the thing they never said out loud, the part no one wanted to admit, was that I was the one Grandpa Eli favored. He wasn't flashy like the rest of the family. He didn't do country club Sundays or birthday shoutouts on Facebook. He was quiet, just like me. We'd sit in the garage and tinker. He'd hand me tools and ask about my projects without pretending to understand them. It was the only time I felt seen. He used to say, "Some folks talk their way into a room. You'll build one of your own." I held on to that. He passed when I was 16. I barely spoke at the funeral. My dad made some vague speech about legacy and family values. Dean got a scholarship from some alumni network my parents bragged about for months. And me? I got silence. Just silence, until the lawyer called. Apparently, Grandpa Eli had set up a small trust fund in my name. Nothing flashy. Nothing mansion-worthy. But enough to build something with. Start a business. Fund an idea. Invest in my future. It was the first time anyone had used the words future and Theo in the same sentence. But I wasn't allowed access until I turned 21. So I waited. I worked. I saved. I went to a local community college and lived off campus in a converted garage that smelled like mildew and regret. My friends got spring break photos on yachts. I got roaches that refused to die and a neighbor who microwaved fish at 2 a.m. And still, I waited. Quietly. Patiently. Counting down to that 21st birthday like it was the end of a prison sentence. That day finally came. I showed up to the law office in my one decent blazer and a button-down shirt that still had the security tag on it. I didn't bring anyone. My parents weren't invited, and Dean was too busy, networking, in Austin with crypto bros and podcast guests who used words like alpha and value ladder. I sat across from the lawyer, Mr. Hargrove. He looked like he'd been carved from an old tree and smelled like dust and policy. He smiled politely. "Theo. Good to see you. I suppose we should get started." He pulled out a folder. Thick. Crisp. Like the kind of folder that has already ruined someone's day once and is now back for seconds. "Before we go further," he said, "I need to inform you of a change that occurred roughly 9 months ago." My stomach twisted. The room suddenly felt 2 degrees too warm. Hargrove continued, flipping to a notarized page with the elegance of a man who'd done this too many times. "Your father, as the controlling guardian of the trust until your 21st birthday, legally reassigned the beneficiary rights to your brother Dean." I blinked. "I'm sorry?" I asked, my voice calm, but only because my brain hadn't caught up yet. He nodded, slowly. "It means that, upon your birthday, the trust no longer activates for you. It activates for Dean. The shares, the accounts, the assets, it's all under his name now." For a full 10 seconds, I thought maybe I had walked into the wrong office. Maybe this was a prank. Maybe Ashton Kutcher was about to pop out of a filing cabinet and yell something. But no. The folder sat there still. Heavy. Real. "I didn't sign anything," I said. "I didn't agree to that." "You didn't have to," he said. "Your father had power of attorney over the trust until your 21st. And he used it. Legally." There was a pause. Then Mr. Hargrove added, with just a flicker of sympathy in his eyes, "He left a note, if you'd like to read it. It's brief." I took it with steady hands. Just one line, scribbled in my dad's familiar, careless handwriting. "Dean knows what to do with opportunity. Theo's still figuring it out. I didn't yell. Didn't flip the table. Didn't storm out or demand answers or ask to speak to a manager. I just sat there, nodding slowly like a man trying to calculate the distance between here and a nervous breakdown. Is there anything left in the trust? I finally asked. Hargrove adjusted his glasses, clearly expecting a meltdown. Just the brokerage account. The stocks. Everything else, liquid cash, property, the small investment notes, have already been transferred. Transferred? I echoed. Like gift wrapped? He winced. I don't handle metaphors. But yes. That's one way to put it. I let out a small, sharp laugh. How much are the shares worth? Roughly 76,000. He said, opening a printed report. Primarily dividend yield holdings. Utilities. Blue chip. Nothing risky. Your grandfather believed in slow growth. Of course he did. I muttered. He made his fortune on dirt and gravel. That he did. I stood. Can I sell them? You can, he said slowly. Technically, Dean is now the beneficiary, but you're still listed as the executor until the shares are formally retitled. Which, for some reason, hasn't been done yet. I raised an eyebrow. And how long does that take? He hesitated. I didn't. I'll be handling the transfer myself, I said, gripping the folder with every bit of inherited stubbornness I had. Today. He gave a small, almost impressed nod. You'll need to fill out Form 3923 and get it notarized. I can walk you through it. I smiled, a little too widely. Oh, I already read the trust documents. I know where the line is drawn. And in that moment, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like an unpaid intern in a long-running family drama who just found the delete key to the entire production. I sold the shares within the hour. Didn't even blink. 76 grand wasn't life-changing, but it was life-redirecting. It was enough to remind me that maybe, just maybe, I still had a sliver of autonomy they hadn't smothered. I moved the money into a fresh LLC I'd been planning for over a year, Signal Nest, a tech repair and modular parts shop. Niche, yes, but with real clients. Actual demand? My name on the paperwork, and everything. No loans. No credit cards. Just cash. My cash. And the best part? It didn't even flag with Dean. Not right away. See, legally, he'd still get the paperwork next quarter showing that the account had been zeroed out. But until then? Ghost town. That night, I got home and sat in my garage, the same converted mold box I'd been living in for 3 years, and I looked around. Then I smiled. Dean knows what to do with opportunity, I said out loud. Cool. Me too. 2 weeks passed before anyone in the family realized something was off. It started with a text from my mother. Hey, sweetie. Dean said something weird about a letter from a stock company? Is everything okay? I stared at the screen. Did she actually think I was gonna explain brokerage protocol to the woman who once told me the internet was stored in the wires? Me. Totally okay. Might wanna ask Dad though, smiley face. She heart-reacted the message like she didn't hear the explosion behind it. A few days later, Dad finally texted. One line. No greeting. No smiley. Dad, you touched the account? I didn't reply. Dad, don't play games, Theo. We set that up for Dean's education. That was tuition money. I stared at the message so long my screen dimmed twice. Tuition money? Dean was a grown man. He already had a degree. He had a business degree from a place that printed diplomas and frat house violations on the same paper. He wasn't in school. He wasn't planning to go to school. He was planning to start another entrepreneurial content brand, which, last I heard, meant renting Teslas and vlogging about emotional masculinity. I could have exploded. I could have typed out a novel's worth of fury. But I didn't. I replied with just 2 words. Me. Chill. Not mine. No emoji. No punctuation. Just the verbal equivalent of a middle finger wrapped in velvet. He didn't reply. I went to bed that night with the kind of silence you don't get from winning. You get it from surviving. And I slept better than I had in months. I thought that would be the end of it. One text. One glorious little punctuation-free rebellion. But no. That was just the pregame. A week after the chill, not mine message, I got a phone call. Blocked number. Obvious trap. I let it ring out. Then another. Then another. On the fourth call, I picked up. Not because I wanted to talk, because I wanted to listen. Is this Theo? I recognized the voice. My dad's business partner. Alan. The guy who always called me champ and offered advice I never asked for, like, you got a network. Or, quit school, go solar. Speaking. There was a pause. Then a sigh so dramatic, I imagined him loosening a tie for no reason. Your dad's pretty upset. Look, I'm not getting into family stuff, but that money, it was positioned for something big. A business expansion. Loans were tied to it. I nearly laughed. You're calling because he used my name to secure leverage, aren't you? Another pause. Another sigh. I'm saying, maybe we can work something out. A conversation. Something simple. I looked around my garage apartment, still humid with leftover ramen smell, and grinned. Tell him I'll pencil him in right after my meeting with Elon. Click. That same night, I get added to a group chat that hadn't seen action since 2018. It was called Family Core Sparkling Heart. And the icon was a blurry photo of us all at Applebee's during the Great 2-4-$20 truce. First message was from Mom. Mom. I think we should all talk. Just us. Like adults. Then Dean. Dean. Why are you being so dramatic, man? Just explain what happened. Then Mom again. Mom. Theo, Grandpa wouldn't have wanted this tension. You know that. Then finally, Dad entered the arena. Dad. Son. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. I just stared at the screen for a while. It was like being guilt-tripped by a Netflix recap. Dean, whose idea of struggle was getting locked out of his gym locker. Mom, who once told me, not everything is about feelings, sweetie. And Dad, who transferred my future to my brother like it was a leftover coupon. I could have typed a TED Talk's worth of receipts. I could have reminded them about every birthday missed. Every time they handed Dean the keys and handed me the bill. But instead I left the group chat without saying a word. 3 days of silence. Then I got a letter in the mail. Certified. Thick envelope. Addressed to Mr. Theo Ellison. Fancy. I opened it expecting a cease and desist, or maybe a heartfelt apology letter written in legalese. What I got was a request for informal mediation. They were actually trying to settle this. Like I was a rogue contractor who walked off a driveway paving job. Apparently, Dean had attempted to access the rest of the trust and discovered nothing. Just a digital paper trail. The kind of silence that screams. In his words, I was gonna use it to pay for the marketing team and the first few months of the podcast lease. You know. Vital humanitarian work. They offered me a buyout deal. $20,000. To smooth things over. I framed the letter. Hung it right above my workbench, next to the cracked Raspberry Pi I used to build my first prototype cooling fan in college. I didn't respond. The next escalation came from Dad himself. He showed up. I was at the shop. Signal Nest was slowly becoming real. Small garage downtown, modest sign, half-finished drywall, and a coffee machine that screamed louder than a banshee on fire. And in walked him. Same belt buckle. Same disapproving stance. Like the only acceptable smell in a workspace was mahogany. Theo, he said with a tight nod. You got a minute? I didn't. But I gave him one anyway. He looked around like I had invited him into a crime scene. Then he dropped it. Do you even understand what you've done? I wiped my hands on a towel. Yeah. I funded my business. With my money. He bristled. That trust wasn't just about you. It was an asset. A family tool. Oh, I see. A family tool. I smiled. So Dean's Tesla idea and juicing podcast was a family tool? It was a collective future. No. It was a bet. And you used my name as collateral. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he missed the version of me who said, "Okay," and nodded and vanished quietly when everyone forgot my birthday. That Theo was gone. He left without shaking my hand. But before walking out, he muttered something under his breath. "You'll regret this. One day." I looked around the shop. At the parts. The setup. The calendar on the wall marked "First invoice paid." And I said quietly, more to myself than to him, "Maybe. But at least I'll regret it on my own terms." After Dad left the shop, I expected things to calm down. You'd think a man storming out in cowboy boots and wounded pride would signal the dramatic finale. But nope. The show was just getting started. It began with a forwarded email. My friend Jonah, who works in finance and used to help me decode crypto scams for fun, texted, "Yo. Check your email." Thought this name looked familiar. Attached was a forwarded chain. Subject line: Urgent, tuition loan default, cosigner liability notice. Guess who the cosigner was? Guess who the primary student beneficiary was? Guess who had already sold the underlying assets that were meant to back it? And guess who never knew they were listed as part of the collateral? Yeah. Me. Dad, in his infinite confidence, had used my trust fund, the future I was promised but never handed, to secure a private tuition loan line for Dean's Graduate Leadership Intensive, aka a 10-month overpriced certificate program in L.A. that promised to elevate executive energy through networking and thought alignment. It cost $49,000. Dean had paid month 1. Month 2? Bounce. And now the financial aid office was sniffing around like bloodhounds with spreadsheets. I didn't reply. Not to the email. Not to the 3 missed calls from Dad. Not to the "Can we talk please?" text from Dean, which came in lowercase like he was trying to seem humble. I just walked back into my shop, flipped the open sign, and helped a local contractor install a refurbished smart lock system I'd built from leftover warehouse parts. By the end of that day, I'd closed 3 small jobs, issued my second round of invoices, and hit a milestone I never thought I'd reach this fast: break even. I wasn't rich. I wasn't flashy. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't worried about running out of food before payday. And all of it, every dollar, had come from the very fund they tried to erase me from. Dean, meanwhile, was spiraling like a clogged toilet. He started posting vague Instagram stories. Black backgrounds. White text. Things like, "Sometimes those closest to you are the coldest. Can't believe how fake family can be. Not even shocked anymore. Real ones know." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my wrench. Because no one asked? No one responded. Not even Mom, who usually replied to everything with, "Red heart love you baby." Even the algorithm was tired of his victim arc. Then came the YouTube video. Titled, "My Journey, What They Don't Teach You About Family Loyalty." Thumbnail? Dean staring into a ring light with wet eyes and a blank expression. 10 minutes of rambling about betrayal, business dreams, and people you think you can count on until they pull the rug. He mentioned no names. But he used mine 3 times, once when talking about jealousy, once when mentioning tech nerds who hate success, and once when thanking the haters. The comment section? Brutal. Bro, did you just describe your own failure? Who hurt you, and why is it definitely you? Imagine blaming your little brother for your unpaid rent. I didn't even need to respond. The internet had already voted. One morning, I walked out to my mailbox and found a card. Just a plain white envelope. No return address. Inside was a birthday card from Mom. Late. Of course. It had a cartoon pizza slice with googly eyes and said, "You're a supreme son." Inside. "Hope this year brings healing. We still believe in you. Love, Mom." Taped inside was a $25 gas card. I don't own a car. I closed the card, walked inside, and used it as a coaster for my coffee. The only person who hadn't said a word through all of this? Grandpa's lawyer, Mr. Hargrove. Until one Thursday morning, when I got a call. "Mr. Ellison," he said, voice warm and precise. "I was going through some archived documents, and came across something I think you'd want to see." Hit me. There was an addendum to your grandfather's trust. Not legally binding, just a handwritten note he left with the originals. We didn't find it during the initial review. My heart stopped. What did it say? There was a pause. A paper shuffle. Then Hargrove read. If Theo's still the one showing up early and fixing things when no one's looking, then he's the one I was always betting on. Silence. I didn't say anything for a full minute. Finally, I cleared my throat. Thanks for letting me know. You're welcome. It's not enforceable, but I thought it mattered. It did. More than they'd ever know. By month 4, Signal Nest had gone from weird basement vibe to minor neighborhood legend. Contractors started calling me directly. A local home inspector sent a client my way. Even the guy who once tried to sell me a used drone with grass stains brought in a water-damaged tablet and told me, "Man, you're like the tech whisperer." I didn't even correct him. I liked the sound of it. Word spread. I didn't advertise. I didn't buy a single Instagram ad or slap my logo on a work truck. It was all word of mouth. Honest work. No flashy pitch decks or buzzwords like Dean's, digital synergy, disaster. I kept my head down, stayed out of the group chat, and added 5 more names to my growing client list. And then, one afternoon, it happened. A woman in a beige blazer and glasses walked into the shop with a notebook and a smile that screamed. NPR voice. Hi, I'm Marissa. I'm writing a piece for the local business journal. Someone mentioned you. Said you fixed a vintage synthesizer for a disabled veteran and only charged him for parts. I blinked. That was real. I thought he was trolling me. She laughed. He cried during our interview. Told me this place reminded him of his old radio shack before the fire. I looked around at the unfinished drywall and crooked ceiling fan and yeah, okay. I could see it. She pulled out her notepad. Mind if I ask you a few questions? The article came out 2 weeks later. Headline. The quiet genius building something real, one repair at a time. It was supposed to be a local filler. But the editor bumped it to the front page of the business section after readers started sharing it on Facebook and tagging their boomer friends with comments like, "We need more kids like this." The comments were wild. "Reminds me of my son. Except my son just vapes in the garage. Good to see not every Gen Z is lost in the metaverse. I'm bringing my entire attic to this man." I laughed, screenshotted it, and moved on. Until Mom called. Not texted. Called. And like a fool I answered. "Theo," she said in that voice, the one she used whenever she wanted to sound like both victim and authority figure. "Hi, Mom. I saw the article." Of course she did. "I'm glad you're doing well," she continued carefully. "Thanks." Long pause. I was thinking. Maybe we could come by sometime. You know, the family. Shows support. Maybe take a photo in front of the shop for Facebook? There it was. Not because they were proud, but because they wanted to look like they were proud. I didn't answer immediately. So she went for the soft spot. "You know, your father hasn't been sleeping. Dean's been depressed. This whole thing has been really hard on all of us." All of us. Like I wasn't standing in the rubble of the future they handed to someone else. Dad took something that wasn't his, I said calmly. Dean burned through it like it was a gas station burrito. And I'm the one you're calling? I'm not saying we handled it perfectly. No, you're saying you handled it. And now that people are asking questions, you want a family selfie like nothing ever happened. She sighed. You've always been so dramatic, Theo. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Thanks, Mom. But I already have a family photo framed. What? It's me, in the garage. Alone. Working. That's what family looked like back then. Then I hung up. A week passed. No calls. No texts. Bliss. I bought a new workbench. Upgraded my soldering station. Even hired a part-time college student named Luca who said, I didn't think people like you existed in real life. I told him, neither did my parents. He laughed. Then paused. You ever think about talking to them again? Just to close the loop? I thought about it. Then I said, "They kept trying to close it for me. I'm just making sure it doesn't snap shut on my fingers." He nodded like he understood, even if he didn't. Then came the fundraiser. Apparently, Dean was launching a new project, Healing Through Sound. A startup focused on creating guided meditation soundtracks using deep vibrational algorithms and ancestral tones. Translation: he downloaded GarageBand and hit record on a singing bowl. Mom posted about it on Facebook. So proud of our Dean. Always innovating. We support dreamers in this house. In this house. As if I hadn't built mine alone, brick by brick, one fried motherboard at a time. It was a Thursday afternoon when I saw Dean again. I was elbow deep in a laptop repair job, trying to remove what looked like hot sauce from under the keyboard, don't ask, when the bell over the shop door rang. I glanced up, and there he was. Same haircut. Same fake tan. But less polished. Less smug. Like someone had unplugged his confidence and forgotten to charge it back up. "Hey," he said, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to massage an apology into existence. I didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just set the screwdriver down. "Hey." He looked around the shop like he wasn't sure how he got there. Like it was beneath him 2 months ago, but now he couldn't afford to judge. "This place looks good," he said, voice thin. "Real." "It is." Another pause. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by." "Really? Not here for repairs?" He cracked a forced smile. "Only thing I need fixing is my life." There it was. He sat on the edge of the bench like a kid waiting outside the principal's office. "I messed up," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "I mean, like, I really messed up. That meditation app? The one Mom was posting about? GarageBand with a reverb filter?" He winced. "Yeah. That. I spent the last of my savings on the promo." Then the podcast hosting fees hit, and the lease for the studio. "You had a studio?" He nodded, ashamed. "And a team. 2 editors and a voice coach." "A voice coach. I thought I'd go big." "You did," I said. "Just in the wrong direction." He chuckled weakly, then went quiet. "Look," he said finally. "I came here because I need a job." I stared at him. "You're asking me for a job?" "Yeah. The same me who was too negative and not brand safe for your previous startup." He nodded. "I'm willing to do anything," he said. "Clean the place. Run errands. Whatever." The air was still. I looked him over. The hoodie, the broken sunglasses on his collar, the look in his eyes like he finally understood what it meant to fall without a parachute. "I don't need an assistant," I said. He looked crushed. "Right. Yeah. I figured. Sorry. I just thought. But," I cut in, "I do need someone to handle inventory and vendor calls. It's work. It's not glamorous. You won't be on camera." His eyes lit up. "Are you serious?" "Start part-time," I said. "Minimum wage. No special treatment." He nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. I'll prove myself." I smirked. "Cool. Orientation starts with mopping the floor. It's your ego, after all." He laughed. "Kind of." Then stood, extended a hand. "Thanks, man." I looked at it. Then took it. Not out of love. Not out of forgiveness. But because this was the moment everything changed. That night I got a text from Mom. Dean told us you hired him." "Thank you, sweetie. You've always had such a big heart." I didn't reply. Then another. We should all get dinner soon. Celebrate healing. Maybe even do a photo for the holidays?" I stared at the screen. Then typed. "Me. You didn't celebrate me when I had nothing. Don't pose with me now that I built something." Left on read. Dean showed up the next day, 10 minutes early. Didn't talk much. Didn't ask dumb questions. Just swept the floor and stocked parts like it was all he'd ever wanted. Maybe he was learning. Or maybe he finally understood what I had known all along. Being underestimated wasn't a curse. It was a blueprint. 2 months into Dean's employment, something wild happened. He showed up early. Not just on time, early. He organized cables, cleaned every drawer, labeled inventory bins in actual alphabetical order, and didn't even make a TikTok about it. It was almost creepy, but also kind of impressive. He didn't talk about his failed podcast anymore. Didn't ask about my past. He just worked, ate from the same dented lunchbox every day, and occasionally nodded like a monk in silent penance. Maybe guilt had finally done its job. Or maybe he just ran out of options. One afternoon, a woman walked in wearing a crisp blazer, gold-rimmed glasses, and a name tag that said, State Innovation Awards, Board Judge. She introduced herself as Fiona. I'm evaluating candidates for the Young Business Innovator Grant, she said, smiling. Someone from the local council nominated you. I blinked. Me? Yes. Said your business was fully self-funded, no debt, high client retention, and you've employed someone recovering from, well, I'll just say a challenging career pivot. Dean froze in the background. Would you be open to a brief site tour and interview? 2 weeks later, the article dropped. Not just local. Statewide. From basement tinkerer to business innovator, Theo Ellison's quiet rebuild. Photo of me in front of Signal Nest, soldering iron in hand, Dean awkwardly cropped in the background, barely visible behind a stack of routers. But the headline made it everywhere. LinkedIn, Facebook, even some random Reddit thread about small-town success stories. My old college roommate messaged me like, Bro, you're famous. I wasn't. Not really. But I was visible. And that changed everything. The next Sunday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Uncle Ray, the guy who once told me, You'll never make money fixing wires. Go into crypto. He was suddenly so proud, and wondered if I'd consider sponsoring his charity golf event. I said I only sponsor real holes, not family ones. Then came the texts. We just saw the article. Your father says he always knew you had it in you. Dad, let's bury the hatchet. Time moves fast. How about a family dinner next week? We could take a new photo, maybe for the website? The website. Apparently, the family had launched a new online branch of Dad's landscaping company. On the homepage, a big, smiling stock photo of a happy family business. Except it wasn't stock. It was our photo. One from years ago, before Grandpa passed, me, Dean, Mom, Dad, standing next to the old mower. My face, front and center. They had used it without asking. Suddenly it all made sense. The warmth. The fake nostalgia. The offers to reconnect. It wasn't about healing. It was branding. I sent them a single email. Subject: photo use. Legal notice pending. Body: I did not consent to the use of my image for commercial purposes. Please remove the photo within 48 hours or expect a formal notice from my attorney. Theo Ellison. No greeting. No emojis. No forgiveness. Within 12 hours, the site was down. For maintenance. The next day, Dad called and left a voicemail. We didn't mean harm, son. It was just nice to remember the good times. Maybe you could have said something first instead of acting like a stranger. I didn't reply. Instead, I posted the article on my business page with one caption. Turns out the black sheep wasn't lost, just walking his own way. And the comments poured in. Even a few family members liked the post. Dean didn't comment. But the next day, he showed up to the shop early again. Coffee in hand. No words. Just a nod. It was a cold morning in late February when I stood outside Grandpa's old house. The siding was faded. The porch swing still crooked. The wind smelled like dry leaves and asphalt. The same smell from every summer I spent helping him fix radios while the world moved on without us. I hadn't been back since the funeral. I wasn't there to reminisce. I wasn't even sure why I drove there. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, and let the silence wrap around me. The Ellison house. A place where potential was a currency I never got to spend. A place where I was always a phase, and Dean was the future. Now, the windows were dark. The mailbox was gone. The grass had eaten the sidewalk. I pulled up my phone, tapped open the email Hargrove had sent months ago, and reread the scanned note in Grandpa's handwriting. If Theo's still the one showing up early and fixing things when no one's looking, then he's the one I was always betting on. I smiled. He'd been gone for years, but somehow, he still understood me better than anyone alive. I didn't knock. I didn't take a picture. I just turned, got in my truck, and drove back to the shop. Dean was already there, adjusting a shelf. He didn't say much anymore. Just worked. Clean. Consistent. That morning, he fixed a mislabeled cable tray without being asked. No fanfare. No Instagram story. Just did it. I offered him a coffee. He nodded, said thanks. And for the first time in years, the silence between us didn't feel loaded. It just was. Later that day, a high school kid named Julian came in with his mom. He had a backpack full of wires, a shoebox of broken phone parts, and eyes that darted around like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to dream out loud. "Are you the guy that fixed the speaker boards for Mr. Daniels?" he asked. "He said you let students hang around sometimes?" I looked him over. Nervous. Smart. Too polite for his own good. Just like I was. I handed him a pair of gloves. "Only rule is, if you break it, you learn why." He grinned like I'd given him a golden ticket. Dean passed him a screwdriver. "Start with the easy stuff. Inventory bin labels are a mess." The kid nodded. And just like that, we became three. That evening, I closed up the shop and took one last look around. Tools in place. Coffee brewing. Laughter in the back room. I didn't have $1 million IPO or a viral product line. But I had something better. A name that belonged to me again. A business that meant something. And the quiet power of never needing their permission again.